Love breaks. Dear friends, the sentence itself demands completion, doesn't it? In fact, in keeping with this series called Breaking Boundaries, the completion for me is boundaries. And so the full sentence is love breaks boundaries. So my dear friends and colleagues, I want to talk about how love as a force can break boundaries. You might think that that is mundane and trivial and so obvious. But in the talk that I'm giving today, I want to talk about how on a campus, more than ever before, has the ability to break the boundaries that we increasingly see in our broken world, if you will. And I want to illustrate this with an anecdote, more specifically, part of a comedy I watched as a child in Nigeria. It was a British comedy, but I watched it in Nigeria. And the name of the comedy was Mind Your Language. It was a comedy about a classroom, and a classroom full of immigrants from all over the world. It was an evening class, and so these were immigrants newly arrived in England who were working, who used to work in the daytime, but they wanted to learn English, and so they would attend an evening English class. And so in the particular episode that will illustrate what I'm talking about, there were about 3 or 4 people. One person was Italian, there was a Spaniard, there was a Pakistani, and there was a Chinese individual. And all of them were grappling with English to the extent that they couldn't communicate with one another. And then all of a sudden, Giovanni, that was the Italian, said, "I know what to do." And he mentioned one name, and the name was Pele. And for those of you who know about the history of soccer, that name may ring a bell. It definitely rung a bell for the rest of the individuals. They knew exactly what he was talking about, and more importantly, it was as if Giovanni initiated a game that they knew. And so the next person said Zico, another famous soccer player from another country. The other person, the Spaniard, said Stofira, the name of another famous soccer player from another country. And even the Chinese individual said Valderrama, another name of another famous soccer player from another part of the world. And Giovanni, the person who initiated the game, said, "That's the language. That is a language that we understand." What am I trying to say with that illustration? Well, it happened in a classroom. In many ways, it was the way that a classroom brings people together from different places, different nationalities, and even with their differences, they do speak a common language. And in that particular case, the language was soccer. All of those people they mentioned were people, they were world icons. And there was a way in which, despite the fact that these people spoke different languages, they immediately understood and communicated in a language that was about soccer. Likewise, we are in a very big classroom at Vassar. We, like that classroom, are from all over the world, pursuing something like those people. And I want to just really segue into something else to really engender the way that love can break boundaries. Notice in my illustration, there was an object of affection. The object of affection was soccer. And at Vassar, we're all pursuing objects. And my dear friends and colleagues, what I want to say is that those objects can embody love. They can break boundaries in a divided world. And dear colleagues and friends, I want to propose a radical idea. This is your homework. This is going to be your takeaway from this talk. How I wish at Vassar students would go up to their professor and say, I want to choose another member of this class who I don't know and do an assignment with that student. That assignment will become our object of love. And through that assignment, we'll work together and know one another. Because a university is not just about amassing knowledge. It's a communion. It's a family. And so I'm laying the gauntlet for all of us. How I would love for a student to come up to me and propose that. And I suspect amongst my colleagues at Vassar, many would be susceptible to the same idea. How does love break boundaries? Through knowledge, through the very thing that is in front of us here at Vassar, through things that we can get crazy about in class. The classroom is not just a place of the dissemination of knowledge. It engenders a family that crosses racial, ideological, partisan, name it, divides. Thank you very much.